Styling.
Did you see these last week?
Styling, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Probably.
Oh yeah, you did, because I did my
I
Michael
don't know.
Caine for a fucking whole episode. I was
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
Michael
And you even
Caine.
look like him
Yeah,
with,
that's
I
right.
thought I might
Yeah,
have said something.
yeah, we did. We did a whole episode about it last week.
We
I'm
did.
sorry.
One of us did. One of us had to endure it. We should probably move on from.
This is the Bullshit Filter, episode 144. We're recording this 27th of February, 2026 in America. No, in Australia.
Yes.
In America, it's 1933.
Yes.
Wow.
Give or take a
Fuck.
week.
What? Like some months we get to do a bullshit filter and I go, I got nothing to talk about. And
Yeah,
then
nothing.
other months,
Then there's. Yeah.
it's,
Thank you, Trump.
what do you call it when you have too much? Something of something. Anyway, an
Plethora?
embarrassment of
I
riches.
don't
Let's
know.
just say that.
And there we go.
Hard to know
Yes.
what stories
Shit.
to talk about. Do we talk about Trump's
Shit
Nazi
show.
rally / State of the Union?
Yeah.
Do we talk about the war that they're gearing up for in Iran? Do we talk about the Epstein files? Bill Gates coming out
They find.
last couple of days and admitting to
Yeah,
having
Bill
affairs
Gates-
with two
Gates-
Russian women,
Yeah.
according to the Wall Street Journal,
Yeah.
allegedly. But no,
Well-
today on the show, we're going to be talking about the Cuban crisis because I love Cuba and because in the Cold
Yes.
War, we've spent months and months talking about Cuban revolutions, and we're talking about Fidel Castro trying to get things up and running. And here we are at what is probably the end of the Cuban revolution. It's being stomped on, finally, by the Trump administration.
Right.
And then as they are wiping out Cuba and gearing up for war in Iran, we will also then talk about Trump's board of peace. The greatest grift ever in the history of humanity.
Thank you.
The greatest boondoggle I've ever seen. And then to finish up, we're going to talk about how the world is moving away from the United States in terms of the US dollar, the de-dollarization of the world and the potential impacts of that, not just with BRICS, but now with the EU and Wero, their credit card scheme, a replacement for Visa and MasterCard. But let's start with the
Which
Cuban.
to me is the right. Just real quick, Tim. The last thing that the pay system that we're going to be talking about, to me, that's like the last vestiges of the Cold War. Europe was like, you know what? Okay, enough of this. America control, dominating. We're taking back a lot of things, but we'll get to that. But so this is the Cuban crisis, not the Cuban Missile Crisis. Two different crises. Let's just make sure that everybody's clear on this is today's crisis in Cuba.
Cuba is fucked by the looks of it. The 67-year experiment with socialism is coming to an end. Fidel Castro must be rolling in his grave. Raul, his little brother, still around, 94. Not sure how well he's doing. I haven't seen him provide any commentary on this directly. But it is absolutely fucking disgusting what's happening to Cuba. The USA, under the Trump administration, is deliberately creating a humanitarian disaster of extraordinary proportions. We're talking 10, 11 million people, the population of Cuba, without food, without medicine, without hospitals, without
fuel to run it all.
Garbage collection, disease. And this is a country, by the way, Cuba, that has done nothing to the USA. Never attacked it, never tried to invade it. The inverse is true, of course.
Which we'll get to.
The United States has attacked Cuba. Has had it under illegal economic sanctions since 1960. And one of the interesting things to come into this is, as you know, when Fidel Castro died 5 or 6 years ago, we did like a 3-part, I think, from memory, 2 or 3-part episode of this show where I just analyzed the New York Times's biased coverage to demonstrate the level of propaganda that Americans are used to. Even after the guy had died, there was just New York Times obit on him was full of lies and
Yeah.
half-truths and spin about Castro and the Cuban Revolution. Interesting, though,
Oh yeah.
now the New York Times, I'm actually in agreement with when it's talking about Cuba. So there's a change in
Oh
coverage,
wow.
which is interesting because I know the New York Times hates Trump, but generally, they've had issues with every Republican president for decades. But usually they will get on board when it comes to the great enemies of America. Talking about Cuba or Russia or Iran, North Korea, typically the New York Times will just get on board and follow the script. But this time it's not.
Mm.
Like I've got an article here from the New York Times dated the 20th of February, so a week ago. A new US blockade is strangling Cuba. An analysis of ship movements shows that the Trump administration is isolating the island at one of its most vulnerable moments. Cuba is confronting the United States' first effective blockade since the Cuban Missile Crisis and running out of fuel fast, pushing the nation toward a humanitarian crisis and its government to the edge of collapse, according to a New York Times analysis of shipping data and satellite images. Cuban tankers have hardly left the island's shores for months. Oil-rich allies have halted shipments or declined to come to the rescue. The US military has seized ships that have supported Cuba, and in recent days, vessels roaming the Caribbean Sea in search of fuel for Cuba have come up empty or been intercepted by the US authorities. At the same time, the largest US
Jesus.
military presence in the Caribbean in decades is policing the waters around the island, fresh off its work blocking oil shipments to and from Venezuela ahead of the US capture of the country's leader, Nicolas Maduro, last month. So for people, I don't
Jesus.
know, you told me that you weren't aware of this until you started prepping for the show. I don't know how much coverage this is getting in the US outside of the New York Times. But basically,
Right.
Trump is exerting maximum pressure on Cuba to bring about a complete collapse of the country and bring about a complete humanitarian crisis, deliberately bringing it to its knees by completely preventing it from getting oil. And Cuba is a country that runs on oil. Because it's been under economic sanctions since 1960, hasn't had the money to build a modern electrical infrastructure with solar and wind and water and all of that kind of stuff. It's still
Right.
getting nearly 100% of its energy from oil. So when you cut off its oil, you cut off its ability to run the energy grid and drive
Yeah.
trucks and cars. Obviously, they don't have a lot of cars, but you do have trucks, transport, garbage collection, all of that kind of stuff. And it's cutting off all of that. It's a strategy of total economic encirclement.
Yeah, and one of the articles that I was looking at says Cuba needs about 100,000 barrels of oil a day, again, because they use an older system, but they only produce about 40,000 barrels a day. So they're not getting even half of what they need. The Americans have made it quite clear they will punish anyone who tries to aid them with oil. We'll go into some of the aid that's going in, but what it turns out, but because there's no oil, there's no gasoline. There is food like coming in a little bit, but it's sitting on the docks because there's no trucks to take it further inland, so it doesn't matter. So a lot of it's going bad. And you're right, they run generators. People are sending them generators. Generators do no good without gasoline. So this is a very effective blockade. And again, it's the average Cuban who was suffering the most. There was one guy that said, "Look, we know that Canada and Mexico, the European Union, and Japan is also sending us aid. That's going to lessen the number of deaths, but there are going to be deaths of the average Cuban citizen who, again, like you said, is in no way a threat to the United States."
I mean, Trump will say that they're the world's greatest exporter of terrorism, blah, de, blah, de, blah. But we all know that's actually the
Yeah.
United States by a long way,
Yeah.
long metric.
We're the
Yeah.
best. Yeah.
Um, the Cuban Electrical Union is reporting that over 60% of the national territory is experiencing simultaneous blackouts during peak hours. Water pumping equipment depends on electricity, so people don't have fresh water. Hospitals are in a state of triage. Refrigeration and pharmacies can't operate. Pharmacies have lost 70% of their essential medicine stocks because they can't keep them refrigerated. Refrigerated warehouses are losing food stocks to spoilage. And things have been getting worse in Cuba as a result of the sanctions for quite a long time now. Infant mortality rates, and they had one of the lowest infant mortality rates in the world after the Castro-led revolution took hold, has risen from 5 or 7 per 1,000 live births in 2021. I got two different numbers on this, to 14 per 1,000 in late 2025. So pretty much a doubling of infant mortality rates in the last few years. 7 in 10 Cubans are now skipping daily meals, and the government has been unable to provide more than 30% of essential medications. So it's a complete catastrophe there that's being deliberately executed by the United States on the people of Cuba. Just for people that are unaware, Cuba has been under embargo or economic sanctions in one form or another since 1960. And I do want to point this out because you may not be aware of this. This is illegal under international law. Economic sanctions delivered by one country against another country is an act of warfare, and it's illegal under international law. Eisenhower put a U.S. embargo on Cuban sugar imports in 1960. It's where it started. In retaliation or in response to that, Fidel Castro, who had taken over in 1959, had to find a market. They looked to the Soviets for a market to sell their sugar. Eisenhower then retaliated by refusing to ship oil to Cuba, which led Castro to sign an oil deal with the Soviets and then eventually nationalize American and British refineries. Then when John F. Kennedy began the campaign to remove Cuba from the OAS, the Organization of American States, in 1961, most Latin American countries said, no, we're not going to do that. So then Kennedy passed the Foreign Assistance Act, which established a total blockade of the island and prohibited U.S. aid to any country that provided support for Cuba. So it was just the first in a long, long history of the U.S. bullying countries into not trading with Cuba. And the OAS removed Cuba as a member the following year, and in 1964 voted to embargo all trade to Cuba except food and medicine. So
Jesus Christ.
So Cuba for many, many years was able to deal with the Soviet Union, and they were able to survive on the basis of trading with the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 90s, Cuba went into what was known as the special period, where they had to do some quick re-engineering of their economy. And for most of the last 30 odd years, their number one supplier of oil has been Venezuela, particularly after Hugo Chavez took over Venezuela. Good friends with Fidel Castro, and they were both socialist revolutionaries, was able to supply oil to Cuba. Of course, Trump invaded Venezuela, arrested the president and his wife, and basically declared himself dictator of Venezuela.
Also illegal.
And in the last year or so, Mexico had actually become Cuba's leading oil supplier under President Claudia Sheinbaum. And she kept trying to supply them with oil this year when Trump cut off the Venezuelan supply, until Trump threatened punitive trade tariffs to Mexico if they continued to supply Cuba with oil. So
Jesus Christ.
They cut that off. Of course, as we all know, in the last week, the Supreme Court of the United States said that Trump's tariffs are illegal and he can't do it. They're unconstitutional. But
he's going to keep doing it.
he's going to keep doing something.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Russia had been a minor supplier of oil to Cuba in recent years. Its last major shipment arrived in February. They have announced that they're going to continue to supply crude oil and petroleum products to Cuba, but there are recent reports that the US is blocking Russian tankers from getting to Cuba as well. So how that plays out between the US and Moscow remains to be seen.
Yeah, because Russia would have to send warships with the tankers to protect them to get them through, and that's a whole that's the powder keg and the match coming together. So again, this is insane. This is completely 100% American made. The idea that normally we would help stave off an humanitarian crisis, the fact that we're literally purposefully, systematically causing this boggles my mind. And those people are suffering like crazy.
And of course, it's not a new thing. As I said, it's been around since Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Obama.
That's very powerful.
Obama did talk about removing the sanctions, but never actually did. He did open it up for a little bit of tourism, but tourism, by the way, which is the major revenue source for Cuba, has also been shut down as a result of this. Planes can't fly out to pick people up. People can't get out of the country. The planes can't refuel, et cetera, et cetera. So even that source of income has disappeared largely from Cuba now. And this is a violation of the UN Charter. The fuel blockade constitutes collective punishment, which is strictly prohibited by Article 33 of the Fourth Geneva Convention. The imposition of tariffs on third-party countries like Mexico for engaging in lawful trade with Cuba is also illegal under international law.
Yeah.
So this is considered under international law a belligerent act, an act of war, and it's not new, though. The US has been doing this against Cuba and many, many other countries since the beginning of the Cold War.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming that if anybody in the United Nations tries to say or do anything about it, we just veto it. And there's no, and I don't know this for sure. I just assume there's no punishment for us. But again, when you're one of the founders of the United Nations and you've got the biggest military in the world, you're going to do what you're going to do. And unless someone's literally willing to fight you, you're going to get away with it.
Exactly. And now the UNSC basically doesn't exist. Trump has replaced it with the Board of Peace, a private organization, which we'll talk about in the next segment. So a couple of days ago, there was an incident off the coast of Cuba. Cuba's government says that 10 passengers that were on a boat coming from
US
Florida
boat
to Cuba.
Yep.
The soldiers on the boat, they say, were armed Cubans living in the US. They opened fire on Cuban authorities who tried to stop the boat. There was a battle, a skirmish between the two boats. Cuba says that its soldiers killed 4 people and wounded 6 others from the Florida sea boat. And they identified 2 of them as wanted by Cuban authorities based on their involvement in the promotion, planning, organization, financing, support, or commission of actions carried out in the national territory or in other countries in connection with acts of terrorism. The Cuban government said it had also arrested Daniel Hernandez Santos, adding that he was, quote, sent from the United States to guarantee the reception of the armed infiltration, who at this time has confessed to his actions. Now, of course, Marco Rubio is denying that this was a U.S. operation. What? Cuba? Cubans?
Yeah. What? Never heard of it.
Cuba or Cubans.
Oh, my parents are from there? What? Are you
Really?
Are you sure? So this is a minor, a baby, a mini Bay of Pigs. I don't even know what to call it. And this is not the first one, by the way, the first time this has happened.
Yeah, and you go back to Bay of Pigs and a lot of incidences since then. The US has a long history of sending Cubans living in Florida to try and infiltrate Cuba, to provide a safe reception for their troops when they land. That's how the Bay of Pigs started. Of course, as soon as the soldiers landed in Cuba, they were arrested by all of the Cubans when the Bay of Pigs happened.
Right.
So they knew what was coming.
Yeah.
This time they were arrested / shot. So that's what's going on in Cuba. Now, at the same time, the EU has a bit of a gripe with Cuba. During the gun battle at Maduro's compound, supposedly 32 members of Cuba's elite special forces, known as the Avispas Negras, or the Black Wasps, were killed. They were protecting Nicolas Maduro. You know, when you bring in special forces from another country to protect you, it's usually because you don't trust your own special forces.
Right. I need my friend's guards. Yeah, exactly.
And when your own special forces know that you don't trust them and you've brought in foreign special forces, it just increases the incentive for you to betray your leader. So there is a suggestion that Maduro was betrayed by some of his own people that let the US in and told him where he was going to be and how to get through him. Anyway, the Black Wasps date back to 1986. They were set up by Fidel Castro as a special forces to help out in various parts of the world where Cuba was providing support.
Right.
But before I move on to that, Nicolas Maduro, by the way, as best we know, is still being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. His next court appearance was originally set for March 17th, but has been postponed to March 26th because, according to his defense lawyer, Barry Pollock, the U.S. Treasury Department is blocking the Venezuelan government from paying Maduro's legal fees.
Oh, my God. Just fucking with them left and right because we can.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So apparently, getting back to the Black Wasps, there is there's supposedly evidence that thousands of Cubans have been recruited into the Russian military to fight in Ukraine, some of whom are supposedly Black Wasps. Now, it's hard to get real data on this for obvious reasons, but there is some evidence, according to the Zelensky government and international observers, I guess, over there, that people captured or killed in Ukraine were Russians. And it's a combination of volunteers and perhaps professional forces that have been sent over. Now, Cuba denies sending anyone over. And it is against the law for people to volunteer to get paid to fight for a foreign government. It's illegal to be a mercenary under international law for like a foreign mercenary. Not that it doesn't happen all the time. There's plenty of reports of Australians going over, Americans going over, etc. But there's also been Cubans. Now, Cubans obviously doing it tough economically, have been for a very long time. So you get an offer to go to Russia, and it's not always an offer to go over to fight in a war. It's like, hey, we need people to work in the banks, so we need people to clean the streets, so we need people to, do whatever.
Yeah.
Come over, we'll pay you well. You get there, next thing you know, you're shipped off to the front lines. It's a bit like girls going over to be models and end up doing porn. And
right, on an island.
Yeah. And
sorry.
So it is illegal. It's also illegal under Cuban law, the Cuban Domestic Penal Code, to volunteer to fight for a foreign military in exchange for payment. It's a form of human trafficking in cases where it's, misleading, when they invite you over and then they force you to go and fight or become a porn star or a prostitute, or even worse,
or both
at the same time. Yeah, you're bending over and taking up the poop chute while you're holding
firing a gun,
semi-automatic weapon.
Yeah, that's a certain segment of that industry. We don't need to We don't need
But
to
we
go
do
into
have
that. But
videos if you insist.
yeah. On sale with my tactical turtleneck. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But it does mean that the EU's upset about this because the EU are big supporters of Ukraine, and it means that they're not really rallying to support Cuba in this crisis at the moment either. So what happens next for Cuba? I'm predicting complete collapse here. Perhaps the invasion of Miguel Diaz-Canel, the president of Cuba, Canal. I think that they're going to do the same thing to Cuba that they did to Venezuela, remove the leader of the country. There are rumors in the mainstream media that Marco Rubio has been talking to Raul Guillermo Rodriguez Castro, Raul Castro's grandson and former bodyguard, who they see as a potential Cuban Gorbachev or a Cuban Delcy Rodriguez being the person who was the vice president of Venezuela under Nicolas Maduro and is currently the interim president reporting to Donald Trump, as a transitionary person who will help the US basically take over Cuba and turn it into what it was under the Batista dictatorship and the mafia back in the good old days of the 40s and the 50s. Basically a playground for American businesses and the American elite and the mob and whatever.
Exactly. I did read something today that the supposedly the United States is going to allow a little bit of the Venezuelan oil to go to Cuba for humanitarian purposes. But again, the whole point is it doesn't matter. It's just something for show. It's not going to be enough. The suffering will continue. But at least they're going to do something with the Venezuelan oil.
They will allow it to be sold to private businesses, not to the government.
There we go. There we go. There's always money to be made.
In the banana stand. Exactly. But like, this is heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
For a number of reasons. Number one, of course, the collective suffering of the Cuban people who have already been doing it tough for generations.
Exactly.
And they can't catch a break. And also, Fidel Castro's revolution, man, like the immense success in many ways of that revolution. Economically, the country has always struggled primarily because of the economic embargo placed on it immediately by the United States, the superpower that's 70 miles offshore. But they struggled through and they did their best to try and build a country with good healthcare, good education, and, fair treatment of people economically. And Fox was asking, I was talking to Chrissy about this in the car the other day, and Fox asked what was going on. And I was talking about, he goes, well, why is America doing this to Cuba? And I said, well, because Cuba was an experiment in communism and they didn't like it. He goes, what's communism? And I said, well, communism is a form of government that believes that there shouldn't be rich people and everyone should be looked after. And he said, and America supports that? I go, no, America hates that. Why?
We hate that.
They hate that general idea that everyone should be looked after and treated well.
Well, let me ask you this, because I ran out of time today. I didn't get a chance to watch any Fox News or go on foxnews.com and check their version of whatever's going on in Cuba. And because you want to go up to the average Trump voter and go, are you excited about potential war with Iran? Do you want to take over Cuba? I mean, are you happy that we're going to soon have hotels and vacation spots in the Gaza Strip? I mean, is that what you voted for? Most of them would lie and say yes. But again, this is not stuff that we are yearning for. And again, you just got to wonder what's going to happen in the midterms. But at the same time, I wonder how much of this would be going on or how much less would it be going on if the Epstein files weren't what they were. Because again, a part of this has to be, besides greed, Trump just trying to go, look over there, look over there, look over there, anything other than the Epstein files. That's got to be factored into some degree.
Yes and no. Look, I think this is always going to happen. I think we're in the end game of humanity right now. And the United States elite realize they're running out of time. The United States
Right.
realizes it's not rocket science, right? If you look at what's happening geopolitically, you realize that China is taking over as the world's major superpower. Nothing can slow them down. They're going to dominate the landscape like the US has done for the last 70 years, if not century.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Chinese era, the Chinese century. And they realize that as China's power grows, economic power as well as military power, that countries that have been allies and trade partners with the United States are going to be sucked further and further into the Chinese orbit. And so the
Yes.
US is trying to basically lock down its sphere of influence, particularly in its hemisphere, in the American
Oh, yes.
continent,
Right.
and just lock down all of the countries that they can that could potentially end up in the future moving to a Chinese trade
System.
system, right?
Yeah.
Predominant.
Well, can I just say real quick, as an American, the obvious answer or the obvious response should be a Kennedy moment. Oh, so China's going to be taken over? Not on my watch. We are going to invest billions of dollars into education. We are going to take care of the American people. We're going to literally do whatever we can to be number one in a real sense and not just keep waving our flag saying we're number one. And you've explained this over and over again on various bullshit filters, but the Chinese are focused on AI. They are focused on producing intelligent people, putting them in positions of making decisions, working together, all pulling on the same oar, because that's how you succeed, right? That's how you become number one. And America, instead of accepting this challenge, we are still fighting over the captain's seat on the Titanic as we're about to hit the iceberg. Again, our response makes no sense, but I guess it's easier to fight amongst yourselves and take what you can versus put your differences aside and unite. But again, it's the exact opposite, in my opinion, of what we should be doing to either the China, and I use the word threat, or any other threat, is you make yourself stronger. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
And I think those days are over.
Well, look, I don't think those days ever were. I mean, the US has always had a carrot and stick approach where it
Yeah.
was offers of this, that, and the other, but really, America has acted as the global bully for the last, 80
Since we
years. Yeah,
could.
since you could get away with it,
Since we
because
could.
since there was no one to
Yeah.
push
Yeah.
back. And
Right.
look, I'm I was listening to Jeffrey Sachs talk about this with Yanis Varoufakis the other day, Varoufakis. And he was saying the same thing, and it's not. I'm not saying that America's been doing that because they're inherently evil. That's just what you do when you're in a situation. It's like a game of chess. If you're in a game of chess
Mm-hmm.
and the other side has a weakness in their position, you go in and you push
Oh, yeah.
hard on that weakness. You crush them when you have
Yes.
the opportunity, because you may not have the opportunity 3 moves later. They may have recovered from that. It's
Right.
if you're playing the game to win, when you have an opportunity to win, you take the opportunity. Now, when you're playing a game of chess, you're not winning it by starving that person and their family and killing and raping and torturing, but there's a different
Right.
level of ethics
It's
and
a
morals
metaphor.
involved. But when the United States,
Yes.
as a country, as the elite running the United States after World War II, saw their opportunity to dominate the world's trade and dominate the world militarily in order to support that trade, that's what they did. They went
Yeah.
out there and
It's our
went as
turn.
hard as they could. They tried to
Yeah.
make it look nice and friendly as much as possible, but that was all a front for the general public. Behind the
Yeah.
scenes, it was bribery, corruption, supporting right-wing dictatorships where necessary, and constant threats of
Yeah.
economic embargoes or military boots on the ground or indirect military involvement, like, we support your disaffected generals who didn't get promoted to fight a revolution or a rebellion or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, the British had their empire, the Spanish before them. This is our turn. And yes, the Chinese empire or homogeny, whatever you want to hegemony is coming. But hegemony. But yeah, I think you're right. I think we're grabbing what we can while we can. Very little to do with humanity or humane treatment, but that's the great game that nations play.
Well, speaking of the great game, Trump put together his Board of Peace grift.
Thank Christ. Oh, did I say? Oh, you said grift. I'm sorry. I thought you said gift. I apologize.
It's basically a privatized United Nations Security Council with Trump as dictator for life.
Yeah, it's kind of smart. It'd give him something to do after he's out of office. And since there's going to be billions of dollars involved, he's going to wet his beak. Again, not a bad move.
And...
right.
Let's say he gets removed as president of the United States. This role with the Board of Peace is completely separate from his
no limitations
political career.
Right.
Let's say the United States ends up in a civil war. He gets removed from office. He's got a global private military outfit that he owns, that he has complete authority over, that will do whatever he tells him to do.
Yeah.
Again,
not.
Since it is literally insane. It's his new startup, basically.
Yes.
Privatized global military outfit and reconstruction, real estate development.
Well, you got to give him credit for thinking big, because he went from, hey, let's see if we can turn the Gaza Strip around, to we could be doing so much more. We could literally do the same thing that the United Nations is doing. But you're right, it'd be a much more privatized thing, and he'll be the one in charge. He is going to grift, lie, steal, and grab for power until the day after that he dies. That's who he is. No one should be surprised by that. But again, the cojones on this guy. He is going to go for it all until someone or Mother Nature or all those McDonald's meals stop him in his tracks.
Literally, the next line in my note says, "The balls on this guy." We've been working together too.
Yeah, no.
Did you hear him? Did you hear him say in the State of the Union that he wishes he could give himself the Congressional Medal of Honor? And he wants them.
No.
He was giving them out, and he goes, I've always wanted one of those. My people tell me I can't give it to myself, but we're going to try and change the laws on that, change the rules, because I really
Damn
want
right.
He got a standing ovation by the Republicans in the room. He wants to give himself the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Well, he got the hockey medal. He got the players gave him one of the. So he's racking up the medals left and right. But No, just real quick. Because I think a lot of people have already commented on this. Is this just him trying to fill a bottomless pit of insecurity or what? Who knows? But the point is, this guy, there's no shame. He is beyond shame and guilt.
No, he is absolutely shameless.
Anyway.
So, under the Board of Peace's charter, the chairman, Donald J. Trump, is not just the presiding officer. He is the, quote, final authority regarding the meaning, interpretation, and application of the organization's foundational documents. So, under the charter, he has complete veto over every decision that gets made by all the member states. He can also, at any time, dissolve the organization and decide where the funds go.
Yeah, I'm liking this so far. There's no downside for him.
So the immediate role when they set it up was the stabilization, reconstruction, and long-term governance of the Gaza Strip. Basically,
that's where you start.
Wants to turn Gaza into Las Vegas, owned and run by the Trump family and friends, mostly real estate developers in the team that are running this thing. So you got Jared Kushner, son-in-law, real estate developer. Father was arrested for fraud. Steve Witkoff, real estate billionaire. And Yakir Gabay, an Israeli Cypriot property developer, they're the members of the Gaza Executive Board. They're all luxury real estate developers. This is seriously Bond villain level stuff. It's like, let's just grab the most corrupt people we can and set up a global military real estate development organization that is untouchable.
He's going to need a hairless cat, a really good comfortable chair so he can sit there and pet it while he's making, I mean, you're absolutely right. He's a Bond villain. And he's already got his retirement plans worked out.
Now, this was like a fever dream only a month or so ago, but then it got ratified at Davos and then approved by the United Nations Security Council, Resolution 2803 in November 2025.
How?
Well, China
and
Russia abstained from the vote. By the way, as soon as it was approved, they changed their mandate from Gaza to any hotspot or area threatened by conflict anywhere in the world, which I assume includes the United States.
Yeah, Trump should be the moral authority of everything. I completely agree. He should be able to back it up with billions of dollars. I think it's a great idea.
So the question about why China and Russia abstained is interesting. The official reason is that, they said the mission was too vague to decide on, but also it was supported by a large coalition of Arab and Muslim majority states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Egypt, and Indonesia. Which is interesting because you would think these countries would want to be supporting the Palestinians in Gaza, not enabling this to be turned into Las Vegas, but they all have tight relationships with the US and they don't want to incur the wrath of Trump. So they all jumped on board. But so China and Russia didn't want to upset these countries, so they stayed out of it. But I think, at least from a Chinese perspective, they're just giving Trump enough rope to hang himself. If I'm Xi Jinping...
It's exactly what I was going to say. It's exactly.
I'm sure.
When you see someone making a mistake, you let them keep going.
Who said that?
Go. Hey, buddy, go for it.
Who said that?
I don't remember.
Never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake.
Napoleon
Bonaparte. It's attributed to him.
And it's a brilliant. He's going to do what? No, absolutely. You should let him do that. You
absolutely.
Should let
him, give him all the rope he wants. Yeah.
Right.
Go nuts.
Well, go nuts. Exactly. Can I just ask you this? Because as far as what Trump wants, which is continued power and tons of money, because he can never have enough anyways. This is brilliant. But so far in all of the years of Trump's life, he has consistently proved that he doesn't really have stick-to-itness. It's not like he can, it's like there's a project and then he falls apart and then he picks himself back. I don't know. He's the kind of the person who goes squirrel, and so if there's anything that he can stick to, if there's anything that he can stick to, it should be this, because it's going to give him what he needs post-presidency. But I got to see him getting bored or getting sidetracked or whatever. It's going to fall apart. If you want something to fail, put Trump in charge of it and just give it time. But for right now, it's daring, it's bold, and it's a little scary.
Well, I don't think there is a post-presidency plan for Trump, because I think he intends to stay in power for the rest of his life. But the question then is, who ends up running this thing when he's gone? Probably one of his kids or Jared Kushner. And again, you've got basically a privatized military / real estate development operation that's been approved by the United Nations Security Council to do whatever the fuck it wants in any region of the world. It's completely insane. The member states are typically invited for renewable 3-year terms at the chairman's discretion. However, the term limit is waived for any state that contributes at least $1 billion in cash to the
You
board's
pay, you play.
fund within the first year of the charter's entry
Yeah.
into force.
Damn right. We have a price. He has a price too. His price is just $1 billion. Ours is slightly under that. But
I think he said it like this.
he will.
The price is $1 billion.
Oh my God! Because you and I have done the Middle East enough to know that the whole turning Gaza into a calm tourist spot never going to work. Hamas is never going to give the weapons. Israel, which has joined this peace thing as well, is going to keep an eye on. They're going to sabotage it, do whatever they're going to do. But the point is, they can't even handle that. But it's not about actually solving problems. It's about giving Trump what he wants: power and money.
Yeah, and again, the money he can do with whatever he wants. So just give me $1 billion and I'll do whatever I want with it.
Yeah. Well, he's already pledged $10 billion, which I'm going. And again, this is like the tariffs. Didn't the Constitution say something about Congress having the purse? Maybe I read it wrong. I don't know. What do I know? But he better hurry up because the midterms are coming. If he doesn't fuck those up.
Fuck them up. You mean make them work properly so they will vote for him.
There we go. That's what I meant to say.
So yeah, he said the US is going to donate $10 billion. And again, straight up grift. He's going to move $10 billion from the US Treasury to his private organization, and then he can do whatever the fuck he wants with it. And that's just the first payment, let alone subsequent annual
there's more
payments. So approximately 22 to 25 states have signed the charter, mostly from the Middle East, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe. All of the United States' traditional allies, UK, France, Germany, Canada, and Australia, have stayed right out of it. Canada said, no fucking way. Australia has said, we're reviewing it at some point. Something like that. Yeah, we're reading it. We're reading it very carefully. Yeah, very carefully.
Yes. Yeah. Jesus.
Tony
Christ.
Blair is on the board, but I don't think the UK officially is on board. But look, this is just a bloated boondoggle, as some people have called it. Straight up grift, like the most outrageous grift I've ever seen. It is literally Dr. Evil level stuff. But what's anyone going to do? I mean, again, the only country that can really do anything about this is China. They could have blocked it in the Security Council, and they didn't. And I think they're just going, yeah, all right, whatever, go. Yeah, you go do that. See how it goes. Yeah.
They're hoping it will implode. I hope the first thing that Trump does with the $10 billion, and I don't think I'm alone at this, is he gets sharks with the laser beams. As long as he can do that, just do that first, and then do whatever else you want.
And of course, in terms of Gaza, the Palestinian Authority has been completely left out. So the
Munich,
one legitimate, in the eyes of the international community, governing body of the Palestinians has got no seat at the table of what's happening to the country that they supposedly govern.
Yeah, there's 2 million of them there, but why should they be involved in this at all?
Of course, Hamas sort of won the last elections I think they had there anyway. But anyway, so the viability of the reconstruction plan in Gaza is entirely dependent on a military body that they've created called the International Stabilization Force, the ISF.
Trump Force. Right.
I'm so surprised he didn't just call it the Donald J. Trump Security Force or, Team
Apparatus.
America.
There we go.
It's a multinational security body authorized to oversee the demilitarization of Gaza and the maintenance of public order.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Traditionally...
Just send in ICE.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what it is. Traditionally, UN peacekeeping missions had fairly restrictive rules of engagement. The ISF is a balls-to-the-wall force that can do whatever the fuck it wants. It's currently commanded by U.S. Major General Jasper Jeffers III.
Good name.
Virginian boy.
JJ.
Yeah.
JJ3.
Yeah. JJ the third. Hey, JJ. He's from Virginia. I basically see this as being the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, plus Blackwater. Trump has said no U.S. boots will be on the ground in a combat capacity, but that just means privatized forces from Blackwater, Eric Prince.
Same thing. Yeah. Still Americans.
DeVos's husband. Just, know, saying, well, it's not U.S. troops, they're privatized troops. And he'll be taking bribes for all of that to happen. And let's be clear, I've been trying to explain this to my Iranian friends recently, my Iranian friends here who want the US to attack Iran to remove the regime, and they think it'll be over in 2 weeks. Like, let's be clear, the US military-industrial complex likes a good long war. Short wars, there's not enough opportunity to spend trillions of dollars on weapons. If you're gonna have a war, you want it to be a long, drawn-out war. The longer, the better. Whether you're directly involved, Afghanistan or Iraq, or indirectly involved, like Ukraine, you want it to go as long as possible, because that's where the money is. It's all about the Benjamins, right?
Exactly.
They're also going to build a base. The ISF is going to build a massive military base. 350 acres, a permanent commitment to security enforcement in the area. So that's going to have to be funded by someone. There'll be private contracts going to largely American businesses worth billions and billions of dollars to run the base. Just another huge US base in the Middle East, just in case China or Russia get a little spicy.
Well, you bring up a good point. What if someone comes up to you and goes, Cam, I've got it's not very hard. It's a construction job, but it's not very hard. I'm going to pay you $150,000 a year. Oh, where is it? Oh, it's in Gaza. Where? I just need you to go to Gaza. You're going to be fine. We got security forces there. No one's going to mess with you. What? Fuck me? Okay. I mean, again, this place is, because of Israel and America and other players, this place is not safe. It's not stable. It shan't be for a long time. So the idea of cleaning everything up, which Jared said he could do in 2 or 3 years, which is not true. You got to clean it all up first and then start building things and hope that no one attacks you. No, that's completely understandably not going to happen. But you're right, though. It's about making money. The big wigs don't care how many people die.
I think it'll happen. How successful it will be is another story. By the way, they're building a massive military base on Palestinian land without the consent of a recognized sovereign government. So
it's semantics.
It's occupation by proxy. Palestine has already been occupied by the Israelis effectively for the last 70 or 75 years.
Yeah. So does it matter if someone else occupies them? Does it really matter?
But as I said, who's going to do anything about it? It's really only China that could do anything about it. And they don't want a war. China doesn't need a war. People keep talking about China invading Taiwan, and it's possible. Yeah. But I think if I'm Xi Jinping, I'm like,
I'm patient.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm patient.
Why?
Yeah.
It's
a
bad look. We've come this far without starting any shit. We haven't had to. We've become the biggest, well, the second biggest, depending on how you measure it, GDP versus GNP, but we're the biggest or the second biggest economy in the planet, one of the most powerful countries on earth, and we did it without invading a single country. So why start now? I mean, technically you can't invade your own country, and Taiwan is part of China, and everyone agrees that Taiwan is part of China. Even the Taiwanese agree with that. They just think that they control China. But Taiwan is part of China, so you can't invade your own country. But again, it's not a good look. And we don't, like, the US is going to fold like a house of cards in the next couple of years. We'll just wait till Taiwan begs. And people go, well, they need the chip plants. The chip plants aren't any good unless you get some of the underlying photolithography stuff that can only be done out of, I think it's Norway or Sweden. So they'd have to invade Norway or Sweden as well to get the rest of the solution stack that is required.
So it's not worth it.
I just think they just sit there and, they're building their own chips. They're still playing catch up, but they will catch up. And then they'll just wait until the US turns into a civil war, and then they'll say to Taiwan, now you want to be part of China again. Oh, okay. Well, welcome back.
Well, again, and I know you know this, but when the British took over Hong Kong, China said, okay, all right, you can have it for 100 years, and then it comes back to us. I mean, that's how they think. That's something an American could never do. And they got it back. So again, they playing the long game is that's just their normal way of doing things. And you're right. I mean, they built themselves up by avoiding war. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing because they're doing something good. Just keep it going.
I don't think the 100-year time frame was China's doing. I think they didn't have any say in it, and they just said to the
right. No,
British,
but the point is,
want it for? And the British were like, I don't know, like let's say 100 years. I mean, that's longer than anyone can imagine. China was like, yeah, all right, whatever.
Exactly. But China could go, okay, that's fine. Sign right here. Playing the long game.
So, just to finish this, one of the critical components of the domestic infrastructure of the Board of Peace was the forced takeover and rebranding of what had previously been known as the United States Institute of Peace, the USIP,
right,
which had been around for a long time. Back in the Reagan days, I think 1984, Reagan set up the USIP. Trump took it over and changed its name to the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace.
Jeez.
And it is going to be the Institute of Peace that gets involved in war. Seriously. It is it is George Orwell's 1984. Speaking of 1984, so the Institute of Peace was created in 1984. By the way, pure Orwellian naming in the first place, seeing as it was set up by Reagan, who was, supporting right-wing military dictatorships all throughout the world.
Yes. Who were cruel to their own people.
Brutal. Yes. Absolutely brutal. And now Trump has taken it over and called it the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. The Institute of Peace that is going to be occupying countries with large military bases. So there you go.
Jeez. He's trying to name the Jacob Javits. No. The what's the main train terminal in New York that I came through? That and the airport. Anyways, he's literally trying to throw his name on as so many things fast as he possibly can. Yeah. It's going to make it interesting for whoever comes after him. But I just had ego. Anyways, sorry. Go ahead. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Last segment, I talked about the world pulling away from the US dollar. We've been hearing for years about how BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, have been talking about moving their financial system away from the US dollar, de-dollarization it's called. This stalled in the last couple of years, late 2024, early 2025, because Trump threatened BRICS nations with 100% tariffs if they created a competing currency. Of course, as we said earlier, SCOTUS has now said that he can't do that kind of shit, but he'll find other ways of punishing them for trying to create their own monetary system. How dare you create your own currencies,
Try to be independent. Yeah. We've got a perfectly good thing here. Give us your money. Yeah.
What BRICS are actually doing now, rather than creating one single currency to replace the dollar, they're trying to build an interoperable digital payments system. There's a thing called mBridge. It's a multi-country platform for central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Basically,
that's going to be,
central bank run crypto that's interchangeable. It's already processed over $55 billion in transactions, and central banks within BRICS have been a large part of the massive shift into gold over the last few years. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the gold price has been going bonkers. in the last few years,
Right.
largely because countries like China have been buying a bucket of gold and moving off of US treasuries. So
Yes.
for, ever since the Bretton Woods decision in the early 40s, countries around the world have had to buy US treasuries because the US dollar was the default currency, the reserve currency for the most of the world. It was stable, and you could interchange it with other countries. You could buy stuff. You could do all of your trade in US dollars. But what has increasingly happened over the last 10 years is the US have weaponized their dollar. They have frozen assets in the US dollar, like with Russia. They've taken Russia off the US-run SWIFT payment system, so they can't trade over that system. So countries around the world now realize, you don't have to be Russia for that to happen to you. The US can use that as a threat to any country at any time for any reason, and Trump will do it. Regardless of the legalities of it, he'll just do it.
Fuck legality. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And the court can tell me no 4 years down the road. But for now, how many times has Trump said, done horrible things to our very allies that we relied on during World War II? Trump doesn't have any friends. He doesn't have allies. He only has minions. And Europe is like, we got to get away from this. We got to get away from America in general. But we definitely need to get away from Trump because you never know what he's going to say or do next. And if there's any transactions that are ours that can avoid the American dollar, why wouldn't we do that?
So, I found this interesting. I hadn't really heard much about this until this week. So it's not just BRICS that are moving away. The EU is also moving away from the dollar with something called Wero, W-E-R-O.
Right.
It was launched July 2024 by the European Payments Initiative, the EPI. It's 16 major European banks and payment service providers that have joined forces to create a unified mobile payment service for all European businesses and citizens. Competes with PayPal, credit cards, and similar services, but particularly Visa and MasterCard. Because they saw what happened to Russia when Visa and MasterCard just cut them off. Also happened before that to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. They cut him off as well years ago. Tried to cripple his organization when he told the truth about what the Secretary of State Clinton and the Obama administration were doing. The name Wero is a portmanteau of we, the English pronoun we, and the euro. It's the we euro. Also based on the Italian word vero, which means true. So basically the goal of the Wero is to achieve greater independence from American payment service providers, which is seen now as a critical strategic vulnerability that could be weaponized by the United States for any, Trump just wakes up and, he's constipated at 3 o'clock in the morning and he just goes, let's cut Europe off. Just another way that the US can bully the EU into what they want. It's also particularly concerning because, like every country, the EU is seeing a decline of cash usage. I don't know about you, but I haven't carried cash now since COVID, really. During COVID here, every business said, we don't accept cash anymore. We want tap payments because cash, you had to touch it, right? And it was considered potentially spreading the virus if you touched money and people took money. And we already had a pretty advanced digital payments infrastructure built here. Tap to Pay had been around for years. We tapping credit cards or our what we call FPOS cards for years. Then we all had phones and watches by then that we could tap with. So we moved to 100% digital basically in this country. After COVID, some businesses will still take cash, but mostly I don't carry a wallet. I haven't carried cash for 6 years now. And if people ask me for cash, like sometimes my Kung Fu Sifus want a little bit of cash on the side, you know what I'm saying? For a private lesson, a little bit of cash. It's like, oh shit, cash. How do we get that again? How does that work?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Yeah. Well, I only use cash at this point for
Hookers
hookers and
drugs.
blows.
Yeah.
So no, I'm right there with you. You know, and besides, if I wear a wallet, it ruins the outline of my tight
Yeah.
pants. Nobody wants that. They want to see the real. You know
That's
what
why
I'm
you
saying.
have the front middle pocket. You stuff it down there. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where my cup goes. Anyway,
you get a cup.
We'll talk about that later.
Shit, we should market this. A cup that's also a wallet.
Right. Yes. A cock. We'll work on it.
The collet. The cash cock. That's what we'll call it. So you stick it down your front of your pants.
Going to jail.
You can carry your credit cards and your cash and your keys, and it just makes your junk look bigger.
Oh, it's
and then
it's
when
going to
you
be huge.
Pay for something,
I'm at the sales.
You're at the counter of the shop. You go, excuse me a second.
You just
stick your
kind
hand
of
down
go.
the front of your pants.
I was just going to take my penis closer to the register.
Yeah. Here you go.
I was just going to wave my penis at the register. Here you go, ma'am.
It's a way of
please don't call the
disincentivizing
cops.
businesses from asking for cash. They go, look, I can pay you in cash, but you're going to have to pull it out of my
You're going to see something. You're going to see something. Yeah. I might need your assistance.
So anyway, 2/3 of card-based transactions in the Eurozone are processed at the moment by non-European companies. And cash is declining, so people are moving to credit cards. It is crazy. Yeah, they've just been lazy. They've just relied on Visa and MasterCard and PayPal and that sort of stuff. And now they're going, oh, shit.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the US outsourcing all of their manufacturing to China for decades and then going, oh, shit, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Oh,
same thing is happening with Europe and payment systems. So Wero is supposed to be the Airbus of payments, a large-scale, cross-border European champion that can compete with global incumbents. And this is really interesting. So it's being designed around account-to-account transfers, A to A, as it's called. Mm-hmm. So what happens, I don't know if this pisses you off like it does me, but when you transfer money in Australia from one credit card to another credit card, it takes 3 to 4 days, even if you transfer money from one bank account to another bank account. It's changed recently. We've got a new system that was introduced a couple of years ago, which is real time for some supported accounts and banks. But up until a couple of years ago, it would take 3 days for the money to move from my account to somebody else's account because they would do what they call batch processing, and there were intermediaries. You got the issuing bank, the card network, the acquiring bank, the person in the middle, Visa or MasterCard, is clipping the ticket as it moves through. So what they're building with Wero is it's pure account to account. So there's no intermediary. It goes straight. It's within seconds. It's in your account.
Yes.
There's no interchange fees. There's none of that kind of bullshit. It's just straight up transfer, as it should be, because it's 2026, motherfuckers. They actually have something called
I should have a chip in my head.
They have something called the 10-second rule for Wero. The money has to be in the account within 10 seconds.
Oh, Heather and I have that same rule in bed, but that's different.
Be finished within 10 seconds, or she's going to roll over and read a book.
Yeah. I don't want to brag, but I always finish. Her about 25% of the time, but me always. Anyway, we should probably move off that now. We shouldn't talk about that.
Also,
but that's amazing. But
the other advantage of this is it's less susceptible to fraud. Credit cards are inherently vulnerable. People can get card numbers, expiry dates, CVV codes, can use that. When it's going straight into your account in 10 seconds, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot less vulnerable when you're doing online purchases, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So not only safe from America's greed, but also safe from thieves in general. Again, and they'll have their own thing. And I was amazed, and I'm sure you know this already, but Visa and MasterCard, the transactions that they do in Europe, $7 trillion a year. $7 trillion a year. And I'm like, fuck, that's some big numbers.
Hold on,
and even if they only took a part of that.
24 trillion in 2022.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I got Visa and MasterCard have 7 trillion. So the point is, it's a shit ton. I think we can all agree it's a shit ton. And even if this system can take a percentage of that, a small percentage of it, because, and I know you know this, some of this, something like this has been tried before, and whether it was BRICS or whatever, but this is like their latest, most sincere, so far, most successful attempt. And they're just going to keep doing it until they get it right, because one, you get away from the Americans. Two, like you said, they weaponize this, and you can keep the money, in your own block or whatever. And if you own stock in Visa and MasterCard or whoever owns them, I don't know, you might want to diversify, because eventually this is going to work, and they are going to figure this out to a bigger degree.
So the 24 trillion that goes through American networks every year, if the interchange fees are, let's say, 1.5% on average for that, that's like $360 billion a year. That's an American tax, effectively, on European commerce.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's incredible.
So, of course, as soon as they started to do this, Trump cracked down on them.
Shit himself. Right.
He's basically said that any attempts by Europe to break away from the American system will be punished. He said that it's that these are protectionist measures that unfairly target American companies, as opposed to him putting 100% tariffs on imports from other countries as a protectionist measure.
That's different.
That's different.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's patriotic, is what that is. But he keeps pissing them off. Go ahead.
In the last couple of weeks, Marco Rubio issued a formal diplomatic directive instructing American diplomats to actively oppose European data sovereignty and localization mandates. The State Department argues that these regulations, including the General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, and the Digital Services Act, which they use to try and force privacy from Facebook or Meta and X, etc., are unnecessarily burdensome, disrupt global data flows, and increase cybersecurity risks. Again, as opposed to just willy-nilly applying 100% tariffs on countries around the world. That's not unnecessarily burdensome.
No.
At all.
No, we don't mind at all. Yeah, no, yeah. We're okay with that.
Rubio has characterized these European rules as extraterritorial censorship designed to harm American technology platforms. And so basically what they're saying, the Trump-Rubio cabal now basically saying that if Europe continues to push for their own privacy laws and to create their own currency alternatives or currency exchange alternatives, it's going to mean that the US is going to pull out of NATO security obligations and other military partnerships. Of course, it's all being replaced by the Board of Peace anyway, probably. No,
I was going to say,
NATO.
As long as we have Trump force, we're going to be fine. It's going to be. In fact, why would you, if you were Trump, why would you not want to sabotage either NATO or the United Nations, knowing that you're going to have something in place to take over? Again, rather brilliant.
They're also, the US, this is putting visa bans on high-ranking European officials to stop them from traveling to the United States, including the French European Commissioner for the Internal Market, Thierry Breton. He was, in December, 23rd of December 2025, Marco Rubio sanctioned Breton, who masterminded the European Union's Digital Services Act. Breton's US assets were frozen, and Breton is persona non grata in the United States of America, thus forbidden to enter the territories of the United States by the Trump administration over what it said was censorship and coercion of US social media platforms.
That's one thing America won't stand for, is coercion.
No.
And we will force you
to...
Oh, God. When you're done with this, I've got a little, an additional economic nugget, but I'll put it at the end. But again, this is, I mean, when Trump goes around pissing everybody off, you are literally motivating them to go, you know, if there's anything that we can do in any capacity to be a little bit further away or less dependent on America, I say we go for it. And again, the more he threatens, the more motivated they are to find some way to to back up a little bit.
Trump has also threatened additional tariffs on countries that implement digital markets regulation, which he says are discriminatory against US technology. Of course, again, SCOTUS said he can't do that, but, that's never stopped him before.
Fuck SCOTUS.
So, I mean, basically we're seeing not only the BRICS countries, but the EU try and figure out how to pull away from the US dollar, which will have massive implications. Don't underestimate the implications of the de-dollarization of the global economy. The US
absolutely
has been able to get away with this. We've talked about this on previous shows over the years. The ability to be the reserve currency for global trade has been basically a license to print money for the US. Every time it needs to raise more money, it just creates another US Treasury bond. All these other countries around the world have to buy it because they need US dollars. And so the US is able to basically get free loans to finance your economy, and you use that free money to build out your military, which gives you the ability to enforce your economic bloc, which enables you to get more free loans and print more money. And that cycle's been going. That cycle's been going since the mid-40s. And as that starts to unravel, it's going to have huge effects on the US. But of course, at the same, like, people ask me, what do you think is going to happen? And I go, look, it's obviously completely bonkers at the moment, but the US is heading towards a complete structural collapse. Whether or not that's fast or slow remains to be seen. Like, it may not be a civil war this year. It may just go into a stabilized autocracy that lasts for 20, 30 years, like Spain did under Franco, a fascist autocracy that is able to survive, or that Iran has had a theocracy since 1979, a brutal theocracy where the people haven't been able to fight back. So sometimes these things can just survive because they're able to create such an imbalance of policing and military that the people can't fight back. However, we're also looking at the AI revolution, the robot revolution. I've been floating the idea in conversations about China building millions of drones and military robots and putting them on submarines and having them land in Mexico and just start marching up the coast, crossing the border, and, sending, like, if there is a civil war and the people fighting the autocracy, the fascists, need international support, within a year or two, I don't know if you've seen the Kung Fu robots that China had on display.
I did.
Unitree this week. So in a year or so, China will be able to produce, they don't even have to send real armies, just millions of,
like Star Wars,
military, drones. Basically drone wars in the United States. Just send them to Mexico. They just start marching up.
Go up.
Or they just get in trucks, take them to the border. Oh, good luck with that wall and your border force when millions and millions of Chinese robots and drones just start coming over. Anyway, that's like the world is at a precipice, but the whole AI and robotics thing is probably going to make all of this unimportant. I think it's all going to fall apart when AI and robots really hit their stride in the next couple of years.
Can I just say the Board of Peace is the biggest, best, most beautiful grift I've ever heard of. Everybody tells me it's going to be awesome, but here's the second best. And you tell me if you know this already. Lutnick. Lutnick. I don't know if he's the Commerce Secretary. Anyways, I can't remember his position. Anyways, his son started a business, and they went around and they went to various companies that had to pay, millions of dollars in tariffs when Trump was all over the place. And they said, let us buy your rights. So like if you have $1 million, you've had to pay over $1 million in tariffs. We're going to give you $20,000. And if the Supreme Court ever decides that Trump's tariffs are illegal and you go to get your money back, we have that right to do it in your name. You keep the 20,000, we're buying the potential. And they just went around to a whole bunch of companies. And now, even though Trump is going to fight back, the Commerce Secretary's son's business stands to make millions of dollars. I'm not saying this was premeditated, but again, fucking brilliant on their part. And there's no honor. It's just grift up and down the system.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were aware of that, but it's amazing.
I saw them cover it on the Daily Show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. They're basically going around and making money off the tariffs. Like if you know, if you have to pay it back, it's going to cost you millions. So we'll just buy the rights off you. Anywho,
brilliant.
Yeah. Grifts within grifts within grifts.
That's true. An enigma. Yeah.
Well, that's the bullshit filter for February 2026. Thank you, Ray Bear.